I really hope that everyone's there. Loved one is near. I want to see what's under my tree. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba.
And welcome to an especially merry edition of the Oddity Archive. So much so that by the end of today's episode, you all better be the happiest SOBs this side of the nut house. But you're not gonna be, because I've actually got our deep hurtingest Christmas episode to date. And like last year, I've got a whopping 7 items to get through, 5 albums and 2 videos. So let's just dive right in here. Let's do this one a little out of order by our standards and start with one of those videos. So up first is this high concept DVD, and I think this is the first DVD I've ever covered on this show. This is from 2004, and it's called Family Time with Santa. And I'm totally cool with the concept on this one, but the execution is a bit lacking. So the overriding idea here is that every night, starting on December 13th, to coincide with the supposed 12 days of Christmas, you're supposed to watch one chapter from this, preferably with your very young children in tow, and Santa, who actually resembles Leon Russell more than anyone else, he'll make you sit through some of his home movies or some of someone else's home movies, or take you on some really underwhelming and usually not holiday-related field trip, or he or Mrs. Claus will read you some usually not holiday-related children's book in its entirety. Yeah, this feels more than a little slapped together. And perhaps unsurprisingly, the Dove Foundation, the ones that like to grade more on message over artistic quality, gave this thing their seal of approval.
Many wonderful things about Christmas time. Families get together to celebrate the holidays and share each other's company. Christmas is also about giving to others.
I hope you really enjoy that bicycle. Be sure to take care of it. I receive so many letters each year asking me several of the same questions, so I thought I would answer them. For the next 12 nights, I will share with you my hobbies, read you some wonderful stories, and show you just how Mrs. Claus and I spend time together. Start on December 13th and only watch that night's show. If you would like, you may watch it again and again, but make sure you don't go to the next night until tomorrow night. Now, the only way you can watch each night's presentation is if you do all your chores, brush your teeth, and get ready for bed. Parents, go to my website where you can put your children's name on a personal Family Time with Santa calendar. Print it out for each child, and you're ready to count down the days until Christmas with me each night. Go to FamilyTimeWithSanta.com. It's Family Time with Santa, and Santa loves you so. It's family time with Santa, just 11 more nights to go. Great, you made it. After the busy holidays, Santa likes to go on vacation and loves to relax with a good book. Have you ever been tubing? It's really a lot of fun. You get pulled up the hill on your tube by what's called a rope tow. I hoped you liked tonight's episode. Tomorrow night, I'm going to show you where Santa lives and just how important Mrs. Claus is to me. I will even take you on a one-horse open sleigh ride. How does that sound, huh? And she knows how much I love cookies, too. It's amazing, but I can smell those cookies clean out to my workshop, and I just can't resist. Maybe I'll just have one. I want to tell you about one young man who made his dream come true. His name is Clark Maxfield. He's now 14 years old and an excellent student.
When I was just 5 years old, I had a dream. My dream was to become a first-degree black belt. My journey began as a white belt in Taekwondo.
This is just like flying with my reindeer.
But you have to land that double salka if you want to be in a Christmas ice program.
I know. I don't think I can do it.
Sure you can. You just have to keep practicing. But you know, it's getting late, and I think we better get out of here.
Will you skate for me tonight, please?
Oh, no, not tonight.
Please?
Well, all right.
But did you know I have a sweet tooth for taffy? How would you like to go to a real taffy factory? Making taffy might be a lot different than you think. Let's go and find out. Jason, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Children all over the world will now understand how taffy is made. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Santa. You can come by any time. And here's a little gift for you.
Oh, wow.
Make sure you take that with you and share a little bit with Mrs. Claus.
Thank you so much. I think I've got a gift for you. I think I've got something to give to you. Let me see. I've got it right. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, I know. Oh, come on, get one here. You know what? This is taffy. And it is Christmas taffy. It's so good. Now you go to bed. I'm on my way.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
One of the first arcade games I ever played as a kid was Pac-Man, and it's still something of a favorite of mine. So much so that when the little plug-and-play doohickeys of some of the old games came out in, I think, '06, I was one of the first in line to pick one up. So when I saw today's first album in a thrift store bin, I was a little excited because I had in my head this notion of some great holiday fantasy revolving around the Pac-Man universe. But then I noticed that it was put out by Kid Stuff Records. Remember the Kitty Disco episode? But anyway, it's the Pac-Man Christmas album from 1982, and I really don't have anything nice to say about this one. There's barely any narrative, no real conflict or resolution, despite the presence of the ghosts. And the songs, yeah, there are songs, they're pretty awful, and they have little to nothing to do with whatever meager story there is, and they have nothing to do with the Pac universe. And also the voices, the Pac voices, if you will, you'd expect them to make some effort at making them sound a little video gamey, but all we get are bad falsettos and baby voices. Let me put this in perspective. The crappy Atari port of Pac-Man is still 1,000 times more fun than this turkey of an album, which may very well qualify as the longest 25 minutes in history.
Christmas is that most special of times. The lazy fun of summer has long faded and been replaced by the crisp excitement of snowball fights, ice skating, and sleigh rides. Children all over the world are especially good during this time because they know that Santa Claus is watching them very, very closely.
The magic of Christmas is you and me. There's mistletoe, holly, and Christmas trees, snowmen and reindeer and silver bells. I love seasons, greetings, and holiday singing, but the magic of Christmas is you and me.
You know, Miss Pac-Man, I just love this time of the year. Everyone is so happy and cheerful, and outside it's so pretty and peaceful. The winter means snowflakes and frozen lakes, and Christmas once again. Snowflakes and frozen lakes.
Hear the wind blow.
Light a fire. Hot cider and ginger cakes.
Then the night falls.
Last year I asked for toys. This year it's different. I have one single wish, that Santa Claus could fill the world with love and with kisses. I mean it.
Some days like Christmas, with all of its adornment, for little boys and little girls, some days are more important.
Last year, I covered an album that you could pick up at Phillips 66 gas stations for some nominal amount, presumably with the minimum purchase of 8 gallons of unleaded, and that was called Tijuana Christmas Volume 2. Now, over the summer, I found another unrelated Tijuana Christmas knockoff album, and you've probably already seen the cover for this one on those worst Christmas album cover lists that have a way of turning up online around this time of year. But here it is, and good luck getting that image out of your head. Yeah, this is just simply Tijuana Christmas, and it's from Design Records, which was an offshoot of Pickwick, and this dates to roughly 1970. And also, this was spearheaded by the same madman that put together that 50 Fun Learn Songs boxed set that I covered earlier this year. But I'm happy to report that this is nowhere near as diabolical. If anything, this is the best album that I'm covering today. So, on this album, we've got 8 public domain tunes and 2 originals, and one of those originals I've already covered on a previous Christmas installment, but that was in a Moog synthesizer-driven rendition. And honestly, that version pretty much blows away the one on here. But for whatever strange reason, old Bugs Bauer, the guy that spearheaded this album, seemed to be on a bit of a Baroque pop kick at the time. So this whole album has this weird push and pull going on between 60s Baroque pop and Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. This year's other record ripoffs style entry is one from a group that I have been getting nagged to cover ever since the first record ripoffs installment, and that would be the Hit Crew, which is such an apt name given the hit job they tend to do on the songs. And strangely enough, this is not a Drew's Famous release, but anyway. This is Classic Rock Christmas, and it's from 2002, and I picked this up out of morbid curiosity after noticing that they were attempting Christmas rapping originally by the Waitresses on here. And my instincts proved to be right on target because the vocalist on that track has the absolute worst unintentional lisp I have ever heard. And the horn section, which was real on the original version, here is, as you'd expect, 110% circa 1987 Casio tone ultra fakey fake. But I also picked this album up because I was curious to see just whose renditions of the traditional tunes they were basing things on. And as it turned out, they were basing it on no one in particular. They're mostly just of this generic 80s arena rock pastiche. And then aside from that, as it turned out upon listening to the album, there's a bit of an oddity within the context of the album. We've got an absurdly overlong rendition of We Wish You a Merry Christmas on here, which sounds like it was done by a lobotomized Ben Folds clone.
We wish you Merry Christmas. We wish you Merry Christmas. We wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you Merry Christmas. We wish you Merry Christmas. We wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
shout, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town, Santa Claus is coming to town, Santa Claus is coming to town. Ho, 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 ho.
So this is Christmas, and what have you done?
A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. War is over if you want it.
Round young virgin, a mother and child. So won't you say, yeah, in heavenly peace.
Shortly after Halloween, I posted a picture of today's last two albums to the Facebook and Twitter pages, and it got a much stronger response than I expected. Half the reactions were to the effect of, "Oh my god, you've got to cover this," and the other half were to the effect of, "If you cover this, I'll kill you." Now, subsequently, I stumbled onto the video companion of one of these albums, and that became the tipping point. So, effectively, the remainder of today's episode is devoted to what's got to be one of the most infamous franchises of all time. And we're talking the Jingle Cats and the Jingle Babies. And I've heard of these for years and even heard little bits of them, but I never understood the appeal because they don't seem to work as a comedy record and they don't work as a serious musical statement. They're just there. But anyway, in case you're not familiar, I can't imagine you wouldn't be, but these seem to have been inspired by the old Singing Dogs Jingle Bells novelty record from the 50s. And of course, given the technological limitations of the time, that record was the result of some pretty brutal manual editing. But here, one Mike Spalla, the madman behind all this, went around with a handheld tape recorder, and you can actually hear the gears in the tape recorder turning at times on the records. But he went around recording cats meowing and babies crying and cooing, and then he fed the sounds into a synthesizer and then played them at the necessary pitches. And the results are every bit as tacky as you would expect. But anyway, let's start with the Jingle Cats album, and this is the first one. This is Meowie Christmas from 1993. And honestly, this was not as bad as I was expecting. And yeah, the arrangements are mostly of the Casio tone variety, but they're really not awful. And I think the album's saving grace, if it has one, is the fact that there's some pretty healthy instrumental breaks in here. So it's not like the kitty cats are bleating in your ear for the whole record, just most of it. by the time the Jingle Babies album dropped in 97, there had been, of course, Jingle Cats and then Jingle Dogs, which just consider yourself lucky I don't have any of those. But really, by the time this came around, I think what little novelty value there had been had pretty much worn off. And this really feels like the last gasp of this overall concept. Now, as for me personally, the Jingle Babies Rockabye Christmas is quite possibly the worst album I have ever covered. This sucker sails right past cute novelty record status and straight into torture device territory. And really, at their least obnoxious, they're still far worse than the Cats or Dogs ever were at their worst. This isn't cute, it's not funny, it's just wrong. Now, don't think I'm letting you off the hook with just those two little clips. Back in 1998, there was, I think just for the 98 holiday season, a companion VHS version of the Jingle Babies album on the market, so a full music video. And here's a little holiday miracle for you. Not too terribly long ago, I was out thrifting, and I was just looking for archive candidates, and I found what I thought was Jingle Bell Baby, which is totally unrelated to Jingle Babies. This is intended as a baby's first Christmas sort of thing. But the label had evidently fallen off somewhere down the line. And it wasn't until I finally tried to watch the tape that I realized I had inadvertently purchased a copy of the Jingle Babies music video. And I subsequently realized that the name was stamped onto the front spine of the tape, so I was having a real observant day there. But whereas the Jingle Cats videos have been reissued, I think twice now, and there's even been a fairly recently re-recorded version just for Blu-ray. I don't think the Jingle Babies are ever going to get reissued. I think I know why, too. Most of the baby sounds on the album are of the kids crying. And when you watch a baby cry, it displays a pretty obvious emotion. So for about 80% of the tape, you're watching what appears to be a bunch of kids in pain amongst this kind of pseudo-psychedelic backdrop. And you'd think, given my admittedly rocky history with children, that I'd get some great weird kick out of this, but I don't. If anything, I have this really awful mental image of some really heartless adult sitting there really provoking the babies into crying just to make some stupid, tacky little video. I really didn't want to end this year's Christmas episode on such a horrible down note, so I'm not going to. I got your Christmas bonus here. I got one more song from one more album, and I don't remember when I picked this up, but it's this homemade-ish self-release, and no artwork, no nothing, no date. But it's from a local lounge singer named Bobby Marchetti, who I believe is still active as of my making this. He's been around forever. And Marchetti sounds like every major 40s and 50s crooner rolled into one. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of his rendition of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And you probably can't read this, but it's misspelled on here. So it's clause in the legal sense, like a clause in a contract. And that's kind of appropriate here because his rendition seems to be partially cobbled together from 40s and 50s vintage recordings of that song. So between the weird production and his vocals, it's really this great unintentional mashup that no one ever asked for. But anyway, that's it for today's archive. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone. Except the Jingle babies.
You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
He sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake.
He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake.
Good night, and remember, Santa loves you.